essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over certain topics that I think that you should really concentrate on. I'll be looking at FE1 questions, but I'm also going to look at questions that I've made up myself, okay, and give you the answers to those. Again, just a different perspective on things, and it's a way of revising or what have you. The other thing I'm going to do as well in the question and answer section is I'm going to give you some general advice in relation to the FE1 examinations generally, okay? This goes for every other subject as well as property law, but obviously I'll be highlighting certain things which you really have to look out for the FE1 property, okay? So I'll be looking at that as well. We're talking about that exact moment in time where the property is yours. You've paid back that last instalment. That equity of redemption is crucial. That's the fulcrum, okay? That's the equitable interest in a mortgage. That's what you're waiting for all, you know, for 30 years. Okay, you're waiting, you have it, and you're waiting for that to materialise, okay? That's the mortgage of the equitable interest itself. That equity of redemption is useful. You can do something with it. You can make it marketable. The second one then, of course, the agreement for a legal mortgage isn't an actual legal mortgage itself. It's an agreement for a legal mortgage. You didn't fully go through all of the hoops. You nearly did, okay? But it's enough there to allow an equitable mortgage to stand. Not a legal one, an equitable one to stand. Anything that unduly clogs, and you see, any terms that I tell you to underline, you should absolutely, you have to bring them into your answers. You must do so, because like anything else in relation to property, it's the language that you're using. You kind of gather now, as a result of studying property, it's almost a different language. Okay, you need to have those terms there. Any of the things that I told you to underline, you have to use them directly. Ideally, no variations. Okay, use those terms. And, you know, sometimes, actually, in case I forget to tell you next week, but when you use these terms, I always think it's a good thing for you to underline them in the exam as well, just as if you underline the cases. Okay, because I know as an examiner or what have you, I'd be looking out for that. I'm looking out for certain terms. I'm looking out for certain terminology that you're using all the time. It's much easier if you underline it for me. Okay, do you see what I'm saying? It's much easier for me to give marks when I see that. Okay, so I always say to people, don't just underline the cases, you know, put the cases in highlight or what have you, but actually underline the terms, okay, that you're using. Anything in relation to equity, anything in relation to section 117, you know, proportionality, reasonableness, proportionality. Do you see what I'm saying to you? You can hear that you're in the lingo, you're involved, you're absorbed into property law. Do you see what I'm saying? It's little things like that that can make a difference. Underline your phrases, underline your terminology. You're making it easier for him to give you marks. It's as simple as that. Just to move on then, 17-130 then, Part 9 is Consumer Credit Act 1995, offers protection to consumers who take loans to finance the acquisition or improvement of their principal residence. The legislation requires various warnings to be given to borrowers, I should say. For example, that interest rates may fluctuate and that the borrower's property is at risk if the borrower fails to keep up payments on a mortgage. Where have you heard that before? Every time you turn on the radio, do you remember when you have these various mortgage advertisements being made, and they'll always say at the end, this is always subject to terms and conditions, interest rates may fluctuate and the borrower's property is at risk, you may lose your home if you don't, you know, what have you, and so on and so forth. That's essentially the idea as well behind Part 9 of the Consumer Credit Act, and that's the basis behind it.